If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free, and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode? Episode 228. Late Night Internet Marketing. This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, we talk about the 4 types of online businesses that you might want to start and why they're a great idea for 2022. All this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
Hey, how is everyone doing? I am your host, Mark Mason, coming to you from the little studio in Dallas, Texas. And today, this week, I wanted to talk to you about the 4 types of online businesses that you might consider starting in 2022. After all, it's January, and this is a time when a lot of us are trying to do something new. It's a natural time to start a new business, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. People are really still trying to get their footing after dealing with COVID for more than 18 months. And it's just a really good time to consider what your options are when it comes to starting an online business. And in fact, a lot of the people that find this podcast, that listen to the show, they're people that are thinking about starting an online business. And I wanted to give my perspective on what makes sense in 2022 when it comes to starting online businesses. And it may surprise you to learn that from my perspective, there's only really 4 types of online businesses. Let's get into that and talk all about it right now.
It's time to get to work building your internet business. One night at a time.
One night at a time.
Okay, so 4 types of online businesses. How can that be true? After all, it seems like everything under the sun is available online. In my perspective, as a person who advises people who have online businesses, who's created online businesses, all online businesses really fall into 4 distinct categories. And I'm going to try and convince you of that, but I'm also going to offer that to you as a framework for when you're deciding whether or not you want to create an online business, or maybe more to the point, which kind of online business you would like to create. You'll be able to kind of put these online businesses into buckets that will help you make sense of all the thousands of choices there are when it comes to starting a business online. Now, I would say the very first thing that comes to mind when most people think about starting an online business, particularly people that don't have a lot of experience in online spaces, is starting an e-commerce business. Now, this is something that we've talked a lot about on this show, and it is the first of the 4 categories that we'll discuss today. And e-commerce is a pretty broad topic that a lot of us are familiar with because almost all of us shop on Amazon at some point, or on eBay, or we order our groceries online, or we do something when it comes to ordering actual physical goods online. And for me, That's what sets e-commerce apart. Really, it's typically the fact that what we're talking about are actual physical products. We're ordering cell phone cases and groceries and razor blades and all of the things that you need to run your daily life. We're ordering those online, and that broadly fits into a category that we call e-commerce. And when you get into e-commerce, really there are several viable options for you to start an e-commerce business in 2022. The first of which we've, as I mentioned, talked about many times in the past few months on this show, is the idea of drop shipping. Taking an order for a product that you don't actually have, placing that order at a cheaper price from a supplier that you've secured, and having that supplier ship the product directly to your customer, and you keeping the difference between the price your customer paid and the price that you had to pay to fulfill the order. It's called drop shipping because the supplier ships it directly. They just drop it directly in the lap of the customer that ordered at your website. And so this is probably the easiest kind of business to get started in 2022 from an e-commerce standpoint, because you're not dealing with actually warehousing products and you're not dealing with a lot of the complexities that come with e-commerce. It's a great place to start if you're interested in e-commerce. But there are other options as well. You can form relationships with wholesale suppliers, and you can sell directly on Amazon and eBay and now Walmart if you're interested in e-commerce. Or you can develop your own product and have it manufactured in a country that's good at manufacturing things like China, and you can have that product shipped to you and you can warehouse it and you can sell it online. And this is particularly a great idea if you've got some unique idea for a product that you think is going to sell and the expertise to actually bring that product to market. So e-commerce, very easy to understand. And I think that encompasses a large proportion of the things that people think about when they initially think about starting a business online. And as I said, it represents the first of four categories. The second category, very broad category that I think you could consider starting in 2022, is an online service. This is the idea that you have something that you can do, a service that you can provide, and you are going to put up a website and offer that service for sale on the internet. There are many examples of this, everything from accounting to graphics design to writing or editing or voiceover services or coaching, both life coaching and business coaching. These are services that you can provide online. And typically, these kinds of services are things that you could do in person, but we virtualize them and you can do them online. And what makes that amazing is that means your customers can come from anywhere in the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Really fantastic. The downside, of course, is that you're also competing with a world full of providers. So if you're a virtual assistant in Tennessee, you've got to compete with virtual assistants in Pakistan and the Philippines. And yeah, you'll have unique advantages over those people in terms of probably the language that you speak and the hours that you work. But those people will also have advantages over you in terms of the cost of living in their location and what they need as a living wage. And so there are all these trade-offs in these services businesses. But I think if you know how to do something and you want to create an online business, you can put up a website very quickly and start doing that thing. Or you can go to Fiverr or Upwork or someplace like that and list your services for sale online. And one of the most popular and exciting kinds of services that you can offer people online is coaching. And that's something we're going to talk more about in a couple of episodes. I've had a lot of inquiries about this type of business, this coaching business, which I consider to be an online service business, and how to do it and what it's like. So we're going to have a couple of episodes in the next couple of weeks where we talk to people who actually coach coaches and who are actually starting actual coaching businesses to get their perspective on starting a coaching business in 2022. So that's very exciting. And I hope you'll look forward to that in the coming episodes. So that's two categories. First category, e-commerce. Second category, an online services business. The third category, the one that I know the least about in some ways and the most about in other ways, is software as a service business. Now, I distinguish this from a general service business because in general, software as a services businesses scale infinitely with server capacity. It's not the kind of thing where you are providing a service in exchange for a payment. It's the kind of thing where you write some software online and then you're able to service a multitude of customers with that software. Huge examples that you would be familiar with would include things like QuickBooks Online or Buzzsprout podcast hosting, which hosts this podcast, or the WordPress.com platform that hosts websites. These are all example of softwares as a service where you pay usually a recurring fee, and in exchange for that fee, you get a service that you can take advantage of as a business person. And what's really great about software as a service businesses is the way they're able to scale. It's really amazing to imagine what it would be like to build a thing once and then have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of users that were paying a recurring monthly fee to have access to the service that you provide, knowing that scaling that service really only meant scaling server capacity and perhaps customer support. So that's a really nice business model. Of course, it can be technically very challenging, and I think you need a very good idea to be successful in that space, but that's what I would consider to be the third type of business that you might consider starting in 2022. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to be a software guru in order to start this kind of business. Really, what you need to be is a person who has a clear idea about a problem to solve and an idea about how to solve it. The actual software programming and support and maintenance of a system can be done by some other professional, right? You can hire people to do the technical work, but in order to have a viable product, you need to have a viable idea with a unique selling proposition, something that you believe will work in the marketplace. If you've got that, if you've got a sense of pain then that you know you could solve with software, then that might be the right business for you in 2022. And usually the phrase that I like to use in these cases is, if you had a magic wand, a magic software wand usually, and you could solve any problem, what problem would you solve? What would it do? What would the magic wand result in? And for me, let's say in the context of this podcast, if I had a magic wand, I could wave this magic wand and it would increase my podcast subscribers by a factor of 10. So this would be some kind of magical podcast marketing software where I put in details about my podcast and I paid money, and magically my podcast reached 10 times more listeners. That would be really amazing. If you have that software, please call me. Okay, so that's three. So far we've talked about e-commerce. We've talked about a vast array of online services, including coaching, and we've talked about software as a service. Now, the fourth and final category of online business that I like to talk about is the content creation space. This is a huge space, and so many of the things that we consider businesses in the content creation space are really just variations of content creation businesses. So someone might say, well, blogging is a business. Well, really, blogging is a way that you deliver content to people. Same thing with this podcast. Podcasting is not really a business. Podcasting is a way to deliver information to people. You create content and you deliver it via a podcast. Same thing with YouTube. You might be a YouTuber, but you're really in a content creation business. And what's really unique about content creation is not the way you deliver the content. You may have a content creation business and you may have all three of those things. In fact, I have a blog, a podcast, a YouTube channel, an Instagram profile, and so forth. But I'm creating content because I have something to say. And that's really what the interesting and compelling part is, and what makes a content creation business a content creation business is that the point of the business is to communicate ideas, to create content, and that content has intrinsic value. Now, you're going to need to monetize that content. You may monetize it with affiliate marketing. You may build products around that content. You may create courses and sell those courses. You may have live events, but fundamentally, you're a content creation business. And that's the fourth category of business when I talk about the four categories of business that exist. It's interesting, too, because we see a lot of overlap between these four areas. We have seen lots of businesses that are fundamentally content creation businesses, but they sell merchandise. They have T-shirts and coffee mugs, and that's an e-commerce extension to their content creation business, but the business is really a content creation business. Or we see offline brick and mortar businesses or even online e-commerce stores that are creating content so that they can get search engine traffic and get traffic to their e-commerce stores. Or we see content creation businesses or other types of businesses that offer software as an add-on because they've got a special calculator or some other sort of gadget that people that are interested in their kind of content might want to use. So it's not to say that you have one business or the other. I would say that in general, the heart of your business is always either an e-commerce business, a SaaS business, an online services business, or a content creation business. And of course, a lot of content creators, they're actually running coaching programs or other service related businesses that come out of their content. And so you can ask the question, is this business a content creation business because it results in the creation or the identification and conversion of coaching clients, or is it a coaching business? I would say at the point where you get your money, that's what tells you what kind of business it is. And I would also say it's not really very important. What is it that you're trying to accomplish in this new business that you want to start in 2022? Do you have some topic that you want to talk about and help people with, and you'll monetize it later and figure it out later? I call that a content creation business. Or have you got a thing that you want to do, like provide online guitar lessons, and that's how you're going to get your money? And then you're going to get people into those guitar lessons by creating free content on YouTube. I would say that is an online services business. And even that example of guitar lessons, is that an online services business or an e-commerce business? And does it matter? I don't think it matters, but you get the idea. There are really four areas that you need to think of when you are working inside your business. So these four types of businesses beg the most obvious question. It's one of the most common questions that I ever get. And that is, what kind of business should I start? And my answer is always the same. The kind of business that you should start depends on exactly where your interests lie and what it is that you want to accomplish with the business. If your goal for creating an online business is simply to make money, that's going to drive you to a different place than if your goal in creating an online business is to help people. And it also has to do with your interests. If you have a particular topic that you're interested in working in, a particular space, let's say you're an accountant and you have expertise in that space, or you love the program Excel and you have expertise in that space, that's going to influence the choices that you have. If you want to stay in that space, there aren't viable choices in every category of business necessarily. And so what kind of business that it makes sense to start has to do with who is starting the business. And I think this is a very important thing that a lot of people miss, because they come to this idea of online business and they immediately ask the question, what's the best way for me to make money? And I think that's exactly the wrong question. The right question is, what is the best way for me to successfully deliver whatever it is that I want to deliver, whatever I'm interested in accomplishing? If you do that, then the money will follow. Okay, so now that we've got this idea down about the 4 different kinds of businesses, let's talk about sort of a brainstorming list of the different kind of businesses that you could create. And I'm just going to rattle off things that occur to me, and let's see where we go with it. So obviously we've already talked about e-commerce. And I think if you have an interest in some particular area of e-commerce, you could start stores that are specifically targeted at something that you're very interested in. For example, maybe you want to have a fishing lure store, or you want to have a store that's related to hunting, or you want to have a baseball related store. Various kinds of e-commerce that you could start, and you could become an expert in that area and help people select the right products and provide more value than you can find on Amazon, for example, because you're an expert in that niche. You could do something that was more online and internet marketing specific. For example, you could get into domain and website buying and selling, where you tried to find websites that were undervalued in the marketplace, maybe fix them up and then sell them again online. You could write books and publish them either online or on Audible or on Amazon. And you could become a writer, or you could write for other people and be a ghostwriter or someone that helped people write, if that's your talent. Or if you're not so talented at writing, you could become an editor. We talked already about SaaS businesses. You could certainly do some kind of SaaS business. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the marketing space, helping people that are trying to start online businesses. And so maybe your first instinct was to start an online business, but maybe the right thing to do is to start an online business that somehow helps people that are trying to start online businesses. And you could do that with a SaaS product like we discussed before, or you could do that by being some sort of virtual assistant where you helped people execute on their projects or manage their social media or provided graphics for businesses and so forth. There are other off-the-wall things that you could do. You could make and sell handmade items online. Maybe you are a crafty person and you've got one of those machines that can make handcrafted homemade items like you would find on Etsy. You can do that, and you can use Etsy as a marketplace, or you can maybe create digital products. We see a lot of people selling templates and other kinds of electronically designed items online. You can be some sort of freelancer where you help people do whatever it is skill that you have. Maybe you're an accountant or a bookkeeper and you can help small businesses do that. Or you're an architect and you can do some kind of architecture work online. Of course, as a photographer, you can sell your photos online, but you can also edit other people's photographs and retouch them, do Photoshop work on them. Or what I've seen some people do is product photos for people who are trying to sell things online. In this kind of business, a client would send you the money to buy a product. You'd buy it. You'd take website photos of that product and send those photos to the customer. You can do different kinds of clerical work for people. Many people need help, for example, with their PowerPoint presentations, or maybe you could design PowerPoint templates, or you could do market research. There's also other kinds of service things you could do. You can do direct training of people in areas like teaching guitar online or personal training online, where you have a one-to-one client relationship or a one-to-many client relationship with someone and you're helping them achieve a certain goal. You can become a copywriter. And in fact, my friend Ray Edwards certifies people to do that. And that's a service that you can sell online. You could run a consultancy online. Perhaps you have expertise in engineering or logistics or some other business topic. You can very successfully, especially in the current environment, do all kinds of consulting online. Some things are more far afield. Instead of doing e-commerce, you could actually build a special e-commerce marketplace. Maybe there's a special thing that you're an expertise in trading, and you want to build a marketplace where people can come and trade those items. Baseball cards, for example. Maybe you could build the next great online baseball card trading marketplace as a crossover between e-commerce and software as a service. Lead generation is another one of my favorite businesses where you create content online for the purpose of getting leads and then you sell leads. So for example, let's say you live in a town, you create a website that was specifically designed to gather leads for people who are looking for a dentist, and you sell those leads to your local dentist. You can design and sell t-shirts online. You could become a marketing consultant where you help people with their websites, their landing pages, search engine optimization, or just gave them general online business help. Or maybe they need help with their video editing, or maybe they need help writing and editing their resume. There are so many things that you could do online. That's just a brief list of the things that immediately come to my mind. But all of those somehow fall into categories of content creation, online services, software as a service, or e-commerce. I hope this episode has helped open your mind to the possibilities that exist for starting an online business in 2022. But listening to this episode is not enough. It's time for you to take some action.
Now it's your turn. What action are you going to take to build your business?
One night at a time.
This is really simple. I just simply want you to spend 10 minutes, start a timer if you need to, and write down all your ideas for starting an online business. I want you to just have a wide open brainstorm of all the things that you can think of that might be a viable online business for you. Whether you think it's a good idea, a bad idea, or indifferent, I just want you to make a long list. Try to get 15 or 20 or even 30 ideas down in your list. And for each one of those ideas, I want you to rank them from 1 to 3. If the idea is of no interest to you at all, I want you to give it a 1. If the idea is super interesting to you, I want you to give it a 3. And if the idea just is meh, you could really go either way with it, that's a 2. 1, 2, or 3. 3 is super interesting. Then I want you to give each item another score. How qualified do you feel to do that idea? How much of this idea is in your ballpark? For example, if one of your ideas was to start a blog, but you're a terrible writer, that should probably be a 1 because you don't really have the skills. It's not a super good fit. But if you're an amazing writer and you know that you'd be a good blogger, let's give that a 3. And of course, a 2 is you're not sure. And then when you think about the idea, how likely do you think it is you could find a way to make money with this idea? If it's an e-commerce idea and it's obvious to you that you could make money selling things, let's make that a 3. If the monetization path is clear and you know this is a money-making idea because you see that other people on the internet are making money doing this, let's give that a 3. If you don't think you can make money doing this, you'd really enjoy it, but it's not very profitable, or you don't think it would be very profitable, let's give it a 1. And if you're not sure, give it a 2. So super profitable 3, not so profitable 1. Now, you've got these 3 scores. For each idea, I want you to add up the 3 scores and sort them with the biggest ones at the top. And those are your best ideas for starting a new online business in 2022. Okay, that was super fun. I hope this episode was super helpful to you. And if it was, wherever you're listening, find a way to smash a like button, share or subscribe so you can hear future episodes. All of those things help get the word out about this content, helps other people discover the podcast, and that helps me out greatly. And therefore, I would be super appreciative if you'd find a way to like or subscribe to this podcast. Until next time, where we're going to have a very special guest in studio to talk about coaching. I am Mark Mason, the host of the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, and I wish you well.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit LNIMpodcast.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business, one night at a time.
Building your business one night at a time.
You know, one of the advantages of being an old guy in my early 50s is I've been around for a long time. And in fact, I was around at the beginning of the IBM PC. When IBM PCs were new, I was actually just in college. And in fact, I was in college when the internet was invented. Before web browsers, before the Mosaic web browsers, we had a text-based tool called Gopher that worked on DARPANET, which was the predecessor to the internet. And all the universities were connected by this thing called DARPANET. And mostly what we did on the internet was we sent email and we visited these text-based news groups. And there was no such thing as e-commerce during this time. And there were no online businesses really, not really. We're talking about in the 80s. To see how far we've come just from 1985 to, let's call it 2025, okay, in that 40 years is an amazing thing to contemplate. It is unbelievable to me how the world has changed, I think mostly for the better in that 40 years, and the role that technology has played in that transformation. And it's super exciting for me personally, because not only have I been able to be a part of that transformation as a semiconductor engineer in the electronics industry in one of the larger semiconductor companies in the world right here in Texas, I've been able to contribute to that and be a part of it. And that's very humbling to have contributed technology that made that transition possible. It's mind blowing, really. And to all the young people who might be listening, who, you know, this sounds like, in my day, we had 2 tin cans and a string. You know, I get that because I've been in that place. But I encourage you as a young person to take note of the current state of affairs, because I suspect in 40 more years, you'll be saying the exact same thing. You'll be saying things like, I just told my son, who's just now learning to drive, he has his learner's permit. He may not get to teach his children how to drive. His children may have, I think probably will have, self-driving cars. Certainly his children's children will have self-driving cars. So take stock of where you are. Maybe make some notes. Archive some thoughts about where you are in this time today, because in 40 years, I predict that your mind will be completely blown by the state of technology in 2065. Ciao.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online and you just can't cut through all the noise, I get it. That was me in 2007 when I was trying to get started. There were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet. And I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.